Okay, it's day 176. This is part one. Of course, Paul Ryan is now out of the House of Representatives, and everyone probably knows his situation in getting weapons now to ISIS, especially in Syria through this Moaz person. I believe this is going to be a big break for our investigation because the cover and the resistance and all the cover-ups of the Awans, finally their air cover is gone with Paul Ryan leaving the Senate. And I realize, or excuse me, in the House, everyone wants to dip into the pay to play. Everyone wants to cut into this arms business in Washington, D.C. But unfortunately, it comes with the drug business, and that is just the way it is. And a lot of the earth resources and extraction industries, exploitation of countries as well. So this is really kind of a ding-dong, which is dead kind of situation. Still have McCain in the Senate as far as the Dark Weapons Alliance. Obviously, you still have other folks like Lindsey Graham as well. But I do think that this dark alliance now with the Awans has been broken, and now we're going to see more stuff come forward. In reviewing the videos from yesterday, Pinchuk, I think what's always important about looking at these Russian oligarchs, and people are going to say he's Ukrainian, I think all these are just basically Russian FSB agents that basically Mark Rich enticed to go down to Ukraine and get a Ukrainian passport and then use them to sell Russia by the pound. All the assets, again, all pay to play. But what I really like is when other folks come out and do deep dives on the financial backgrounds. And all these oligarchs, it's complicated. As Diane Core goes through, excuse me, and picks out these individuals, they always make it complicated. They always do cross purchasing and cross boards and so forth. And you buy 13% of my company, and I buy 13% of yours. Our little round table will buy 12.5% of each other's companies, and we'll all make it difficult. But one nice article that did come out was in McClatchy. And here's Newt Gingrich meeting with Pinchuk in the Ukraine. They're meeting in this famous old World War II conference city of Yalta. And he has this big conference every year in Yalta. And so now, and again, a good article here by Kevin Hall and Ben Weider talking about the complexity, which I'm certainly acknowledging that. But this is Mueller again, and his probe are really, I believe he's doing this unintentionally, but he is lighting up all of his co-conspirators. I think he'll end up indicting everyone except himself, which is good because I don't have anything against Robert Mueller as long as at least some of the folks go down. And what was interesting about this article is the way that he was inviting Trump to this event, and Trump took just going down here. This is a brief video appearance that he paid Trump for the $150,000, but this is going to open up all the other pay-to-play speeches that the Clintons did. Again, it's just going to draw more attention to that. But what I wanted to show was by inviting 200 executives every year, all you need is one Carter Page to go to this event. And now you can tag everyone at the event. And as you can see, Pinchuk's been very closely tied to the Clinton Foundation in the past. And then they've hired this lobbyist here, Doug Schoen, who worked on the 1996 presidential campaign. Again, I think these events, which people have been going to before, under the auspices of just meeting other executives, they don't realize that now all of their information, all Carter Page has to do is shake their hand. Here's an invitation to Trump. All Trump has to do is shake the hand of anybody. I believe, I'm going to just say it right now, that the original surveillance began on Trump with this $150,000. When the fullness of time comes back and the onion's completely peeled back, you'll find that in September of 2015, when the original donation was made, was when the original surveillance of Trump started. And I'm talking about the whole Trump family. And of course, everyone going to these events is going to be a part of the net, a part of the surveillance net. So I just really wanted to show why the hacking teams, why the pinch bears, and they were the pinch dukes, the hacking teams yesterday, that idea that we had, that there's these groups of 10 or 12 hacking teams. These hacking teams are going after everybody that's invited, all 200 people. And then you're shaking them down over time. You're finding some way to compromise them after you've invited all these different people to the events. That's why I want to so closely associate the oligarchs with the hacking teams. The CrowdStrike bears are so closely associated with all these folks. These folks are really just a member of the team. They're so closely associated. And the money they get that they steal from different hacking activities is all one team. They're not separate somehow from the CrowdStrike bears. They are the CrowdStrike bears. The pinch bears are Pinchuk's team, okay, for instance. And we're going to go through all the different teams over time. So here's Irina Chalupa. If people really believe all these sisters, all these three sisters really have the name Chalupa, well, I'll let other people believe that sort of stuff. But this is the Atlantic Council again. And I pointed this out yesterday, that this Atlantic Council really was Dmitry Alperovich of CrowdStrike. It's his little group, and it's his little group where you can have all the different heads of these hacking teams meet. And then you basically go over who all the and who all the targets are, basically. And you sit down and you figure out what kind of compromise are we going to work, how are we going to get the money. And I believe this has gone on for 20 years. This was an excellent article in Zero Hedge where they talked about this cyber firm that claims to have all these insights into hacking is actually supported by George Soros. That Atlantic Council is supported by George Soros. And this actually came out before I did this article yesterday. I wish I'd have seen this before. But it's talking about how this founder of CrowdStrike is very closely tied to the Atlantic Council. And again, I know Dmitry Alperovich from my days at McAfee, and this ties in exactly, completely. I saw their work up front at the end of every quarter, writing viruses to drive end of quarter sales. The reason why you attack somebody with a virus at the end of a quarter is because people are trying to close out their financial books. So a lot of different companies roll up their books at the last week of a quarter, and then there's a huge panic if there is a virus. So that's why our attacks were planned. Now, I never was a part of planning those, but I do know that went on. I didn't work on the McAfee side of the house. I worked on the network troubleshooting side of the house. So, and in a sense, this work that we do here very much is network troubleshooting. And the first thing you do is draw a map of all these entities, and then the metadata between them, and then you start collecting data. And that's just, and drilling down. That's how it's done in network troubleshooting, and that's been very successful for us here. So I wanted to talk about how CrowdStrike is so closely associated with the DNC, how I believe the cozy bears are the Awans. I do believe the fancy bears are Suschin on the Senate side. I do believe they have used the Y River Conference Center in Maryland for a lot of compromat. It's hard to say how many teams. It would be nice to see if Trump would publish all 6 teams of 12 or all 5 teams of 12. And we need to drill down on the New York team with Samantha Power, and we need to drill down on who are the 5 teams in the Washington, D.C. area. I want to put a plug in for the Trello board, because things like when a Paul Ryan sees this wave coming, you just say, oh, you know what? This is a tidal wave. I'm going to get out of this thing. Things are going to be going south quickly. Now that this MOAS thing is out, the whole Operation Cassandra, Project Cassandra, whatever you want to call it, drugs for weapons, Awan Contra, whatever you want to call it, is coming in a big way. There's nothing you can do about it. And every day the tidal wave gets bigger. And then lastly, when I was doing the live stream yesterday with Task Force, and she certainly had an incredible day yesterday with the McCabe 20-year, actually 3-decade relationships with Hillary Clinton, with the house that he bought in Chappaqua. And apparently there's houses all over that were purchased all over by Andy McCabe. I do believe those are all hacking team houses, just like the Awans had hacking teams in Virginia. I believe Andy was involved with the Awans buying with other hacking teams. I think we're going to look at St. Louis here pretty quickly. One of the things that came up was quantum computing, and the quantum computing, and I remember Quinn Michaels talking about quantum computing and its use for wave analysis. And the if you don't remember my little shtick on wave analysis, if this whole screen here can be one wave, if you will, I only need to calculate the differences in how much the boat moves, let's say, in the next frame. And I only need to calculate the differential, if you will. So if I want to just chart someone walking, even though I may have a tremendous amount of video information, I only need to chart them on, let's say if I'm doing a differential wave over here, all I need to do a small amount of pixels of them walking this way in a satellite photo, if that makes any sense. Anyway, Temporal Data Systems changed its name to Temporal Defense Systems. And I still believe, I don't believe, I know that they have this capability of replaying your life and creating a movie, which on every American now, right now. So, and that is scary because most people, it's kind of like the Snowden thing. Before the Snowden presentations, prison presentations came out, you really don't believe it until you actually see it. But you're going to see it pretty soon. Here's an interesting person that works there, that worked at Temporal Data Systems. His name is Lamont Silvez, and he works for this company called Pathfinder Solutions. Sounds okay. Well, he did go to George Washington. He's in Tampa. Sounds good, right? But then you drill down a little bit, and then you see he's yet another one of these kind of translators that's been brought to America from Iraq. It's almost like they have the DynCorp guys, and I'll go into his experience a little bit more. Here's Temporal Data Systems. It's almost like the DynCorp guys bring over these translators and then insert them into these different defense companies to do acquisitions of things like the D-Wave computer, and then they move them on until the next big acquisition needs to happen. And here, of course, they worked at DynCorp, okay? And then if you go back in the resume, you can just see this over and over, defense contractor after defense contractor, Convergys, Vangent, okay? But didn't become a citizen, didn't bother becoming a citizen until very recently because they could get away with it. Now they want to get his citizenship before the vetting occurs. But here's CACI citizenship there, here's CSC, et cetera. And then just it's a litany of these different small businesses and large businesses. And of course, the obligatory American University and George Washington University. And that's your wrap up for day 176, part 1.